able to meet in person anymore, it's kind of difficult to make sure that you're getting the information you need to have before you can finally decide whether to go forward. Many of you have already applied, and I think there's just a few of you who haven't yet applied to the program. So I have this little slide deck just to say, a little bit about the program. So the first thing I want to point out is that those people really do look like they're having fun, right? Do they look like they're having fun? So it's not all work all the time. So that's the first thing I want to tell you, though it is a lot of work. So a couple of things about this group. There's about 20, there's 21 of them. I think there were at the time. We have 20 at the moment. All kinds of people. It does tend to be more male than female, not because we don't like ladies, but because ladies don't like investments. So I think there are several ladies on the call, so we want you. So keep giving it a shot. There's a degree, there's a lot of work in the program, but it's also worthwhile. I think that would be my major pitch. It's worth doing. This little slideshow is what's been running on the screen, on the TV screen down by the TCM study room, study lab and trading room. So you've seen it before. So what can I tell you? What would it be helpful to know when you're considering whether it's worth applying or worth going through all the steps that you have to do in order to get into the program? We can also talk about what the steps are. And my colleague, Kelly Coe, my co-director, Kelly Coe, is also on the call, and he can answer questions as well if there's any issues. So somebody be brave. What do you want to know? What can we tell you?
If you are a different major, can you still take these course?
You can. It's a little bit tricky because you can take the course, but there are prerequisites. So you do have to take Finance 320. Now, are you a business major or just an entirely different college?
I'm actually doing joint emphasis in accounting and finance.
Okay, so that's fine. You're going to be taking all the right courses anyway because you have that double concentration. You have to take 320 anyway. As a business student, you would also have to take 321 as a finance student and 340, finance 340 or 342, and we recommend 340. So all of those classes are prereqs for Titan Capital Management, and you would have to get them all finished. We want you to get them finished before fall, but if you have one last one to go in fall, we'll give you that leeway.
So I have questions. I'm taking one 320 right now, and I'm planning to take rest of the other two in the summer. Does that still count, or can only take one at a time?
Oh no, yeah, take as much as you can. You want to get everything out of the way in the summer if possible. That's definitely the right way to go. So no problem at all.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Who else? Anybody was brave to ask a question?
Hi, Marcia. I have a question.
Okay, I can't hear you very well. Can you be closer to your microphone?
Yes, how about now?
That's a little bit better. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So right now, I'm a graduate student, and I already finished with accounting 510. So is that something the one that will be considered? I mean, as a prerequisite?
No, you need Finance 517. So yeah, you do have to have 517 is the equivalent to our undergraduate corporate finance courses, which is 320 and 321, Finance 320, 321. So you would have to have Finance 517 completed at a minimum before fall. And then in addition to that, there is the investments course, Finance 542, I think is the number, that you would also have to take. And if you need to take one of those in the fall instead of in summer, we can deal with that, but both would be required.
Okay, so basically without that, I mean, without those two, basically we cannot enter them.
You cannot, unless you can apply now and tell me that you plan to take them in summer. And as I say, we can let one of them roll over to fall if we have to. but you would have to commit that you would be taking those courses to get those requirements out of the way. And we will trust you and then go through the application process. And then, of course, we check back and make sure that you did take the courses.
Okay. Okay. And then also, I believe there is like two requirement that we have to have like a spring, if I'm not mistaken, fall and summer, three credits each. Am I correct? So total will be 6.
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand you very well. Can you try that again?
As a part of the pre-requirement, right? I believe there is like a requirement of what 3 credits on for summer and fall.
For the requirements for the course, I am not quite sure I got the entire question, but there are, once you get into the program, there's 2 classes that you would take, one in fall and one in spring. In summer, you have boot camps, which are not classes, but they're all-day workshops where we give you fundamental skills. And then you also would take your prereqs in summer if you had to get some prereqs out of the way.
Oh, I see. So it's total basically is a 6 credits then for to join with the TCM.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. We did have one question come in on the chat for a marketing major who's just kind of wants to know how this would fit into their career goals. And that's a really good thing to talk about with the group. What you learn in Titan Capital Management is how to do fundamental investment analysis. It's useful if you want to go into a career as a research analyst, by which I mean a financial analyst, a securities analyst, either into credit or investing in bonds or commercial loans or corporate finance, or if you're going into stock investing, into asset allocation, whether you're on the buying or selling side of that business. It's useful for those careers where being able to understand the profitability of a business and what its fair value might be is important, or to understand the solvency of a business to make investments or loans to that business based on financial statement analysis and market price evaluation. If you're not interested in a career in investments or asset management of some kind, it's either lending or investing, there's 2 sides of the same coin, then it probably won't help you much with your career goals. So it really is designed for people who want to get jobs as financial analysts in some form or another once they get out of school.
I can add to that, Marcia.
Thanks.
So this is Professor Ko. So one of the things I would also say is that if you are interested in marketing financial products, again, you would have to be interested in being in the asset management business. I also believe that this is a program that could help someone who is interested in, like a portfolio management, client servicing type of role, where you actually are talking to the clients, you're marketing the firm's investment products, and you actually do have a role in understanding and being able to articulate that message to clients. So that is one avenue that you can do as someone who's interested in marketing, but you'd also have to be interested in the asset management or investment management side of the business to be in that kind of role.
Yeah, thanks. And that is really important. I appreciate you adding that, because there are a lot of roles that are related to the investment decision-making process that are important, and they're often the first job you get out of school. And yeah, Titan Capital Management will help you with any of those related roles as well. The next part of my prepared, and please do throw something in the chat, or since I think people are pretty quiet here, so you can just jump in if you'd like rather than raising your hand. I learned how to use the raising your hand thing earlier today, so that's pretty exciting. But any questions before I can tell you a little bit more about the process? I've Dan or Zareem, I have. Yeah.
Sure. So I am planning to take it. Sorry, I am planning to take it, but I'm still working on my response for my application. So how many more spaces are left? Because there's no way that like we can look it up, right?
Yeah. There is really no capacity constraints on the program. We typically bring in around 20 students every year, but we could bring in 30. If we had 30 good candidates, we would bring them all in. So it's not so much that we're trying to limit the number of people who get into the program. What we're trying to do is qualify you. We want to make sure that you have the ability to learn and to make the most of it. So it's not that you're going to be great investors when you walk in the door. You may not even know much about investing at all. But if you're interested in the financial markets and you have a pretty good academic background where you can deal with the math and the analysis that we have to do, then everybody's welcome. If I got 35, 40 people, I think me and Professor Koh would be content if we could open the door to dozens of you. We'd be happy to do that. It's just not a career path that works for everybody. So yeah, the selection process is really just for both you and us to get a sense of whether it's a good fit, whether you'll be able to be successful. We want everyone who gets into Titan Capital Management to get out the other side feeling really good about how they spent that 12 months.
Well, and the other thing I'd add to that too is that you have to really enjoy it. Like, it is a lot of work. I'm not gonna mince words. It's a big commitment. A lot of students in the program will tell you it's actually more than one class. It can sometimes be like 2 classes, given the time that you have to put into it. But if you love it, then it's for you. It's one of those things where you have to have a passion for wanting to learn a lot and wanting to do analysis and wanting to manage portfolios and wanting to write research reports. And it's nice to say I'm in the program, but students, that lasts about, halfway through the workshops in the summer, where you're getting a lot of stuff, and you're going to want to have to like really live it. And that's one of the things I found. I was in the business for like over 30 years, managing portfolios and writing research reports and doing analytical work, and I loved it. And it's just because that's what I love to do. I couldn't think of doing anything else that I would enjoy as much as that. And so that's kind of the feeling you're going to have to feel when you're in that TCM room when it's late and you got deadlines to get reports in, and it's all about managing a portfolio and having an opportunity to have an impact. And these portfolios, they're real money, and there's real outcomes to it that can benefit the school, as well as the legacy of the program of all the students who've worked so hard before you. So that's kind of how I'd see it.
Herman is raising his hand. Herman, what are your thoughts?
Hi, Professor Clark.
Hi there.
I wanted to ask, is there set dates of the bootcamp?
Yeah, we do have the dates already set up. That would be important to know. Yeah. Let me see if I can remember them offhand. It's the first Friday in June or the last Friday in May, depending on how those fall. So let me check my calendar and I can be wiser about that. That's the first one. Let's see. In this case, it's going to be the last Friday in May will be the first one, the first boot camp.
Oh, the first boot camp. So there's more than one.
There's 3. There's 3 in the summer. There's one in July, and it's usually mid-July. So I think it's July 17th. And then we do a third one right before the semester starts, and that's a 2-day workshop. It's a Friday, Saturday, and that will be August 21 and 22.
I'm sorry,
August 21 and 22.
21 and 22. And we attend all these 3, all 3 boot camps?
You do. They are mandatory because we're giving you these fundamental skills that you have to have to make investment decisions, and you also will build your relationships with your teammates over the summer. The only caveat to that is some students do have internships that are out of town. They're away and they really can't be present for all 3. So we will let you skip one, and normally that would be the July one. So we do deliberately make them right after the end of the spring semester and right before fall, so that you can spend the middle part of the summer at an internship, or if you have family, outside of the country that you want to spend time with, then you can miss one of those boot camps if you must.
Okay.
But it's really important to do them all.
Does that apply for if I work?
People have to take those Fridays off of work.
Oh, so it's just Fridays?
Yeah, just Fridays, except for that last one in August. It's Friday, Saturday.
Oh yeah, okay. Oh, so they're just Fridays.
Yep.
Oh, that's easy. Okay, yep. So I can just get those off and make sure, just in case. Okay.
Yeah, you want to plan ahead and get those off. They are all-day workshops, and we do a lot of work in the summer to prepare you to make those investment decisions, because you're managing real money. So this is a practicum, and it's like a 12-month internship where you are actually a financial analyst. You're managing $1.5 million for the school, and you're going to be held accountable for the investment decisions that you make. Now, I don't want to scare you too much, though. We do recognize it's a learning experience. So if you lose some money, it's okay. I mean, it happens. Mostly, we just want you to try. Have a good reason for your investment idea. Put it to the test. Make your pitch to the rest of your team, and see if you can convince them. And then you can move forward. There's a whole approval process, and it's quite involved. But yeah, it's like Professor Ko said, you have to like this stuff. You have to want to do it for a living to make it worthwhile.
Well, the other thing I would mention too is that you have to really have a lot of humility, because investing in the market is something you're going to learn. You're not going to always be right. In fact, the experts, if you're right 60% of the time, and that's a good batting average. And if you don't lose a lot on the 40%, you're doing really, really well. So you have to be humble. You also have to be willing to take a lot of criticism. The board is pretty straightforward with, the kind of work that you do in terms of giving you feedback, and you have to have kind of a thick skin. You also have to be a team player, and be able to communicate well with your colleagues. So it's like it's like being in a real investment firm. It's kind of like that.
Yeah. It's not like a class. It really is like a job. So
I'm just looking at some of the chats. So if you have a class or something, you shouldn't have a class. It's on a Friday. So the workshops or the boot camps, you should be able to do them. Does the program benefit if I want to get an investment banking? I would say it does. If you want to get an investment banking, you have to be really good at financial analysis and be able to cut up financial releases and be able to have a good understanding for how the financial statements work. So yes, you're definitely going to see a lot of that in this program.
All right, what else? We can tell you more about the process if we need to fill empty time, but I would rather answer direct questions that any of you might have. Throw something at me, or Professor Ko.
I have a question.
Sure, go for it.
So I understand this is a 12-month, pretty much like a 12-month program, and I was just wondering whether it will be like an actual course on your transcript.
Yes, there's 2 classes that you actually end up with on your transcript that count toward your finance concentration. It's Finance 442 in fall and Finance 443 in spring. The work that we do in summer is not a class. It's just the foundational work that you need in order to be successful as an investor. So it would just be those 2.
Okay, and what days will it be like for a meeting?
They always meet at 4 p.m. and you have a choice between Monday, Wednesday, and Tuesday, Thursday.
Okay.
Herman is back. Go for it.
Yeah, so following up to that, so I have this on, you can see this. These are the schedules for 442 and 435. 443? Yeah, okay. Yeah. So those are the 2 classes you have to take. Do you also take 435 and 463?
I recommend those two classes, but you can put together your schedule the way you like. The major foundational course that I think of, and I'll let Professor Coe add in to this as well, is Finance 335. That's Financial 335, Financial Statement Analysis for Investors and Lenders. That one just is it's kind of an accounting-based class, but you do have to evaluate income statements and balance sheets and decide if a company is worth investing in or lending to, which is fundamental to everything that you will do as a financial analyst. Once you get that one out of the way, then you have several choices. I also always recommend the bond class, fixed income class, which is Finance 435. Most students graduate without knowing much about bonds, so it gives you a head start if you know a little bit more than your competition. And beyond that, it's kind of wherever your interests lie. 463, Finance 463, is an ethics class, so it qualifies as preparation for the CFA exam, the financial analyst exam. So we've added it for that reason. But you can pick real estate or derivatives or international finance, wherever your interests lie for the rest of your classes.
So outside of taking these classes, we still have to meet up for the investment club.
You don't have to for the investment club. That's completely optional, but there is a lot of work that's done for TCM in teams outside of the classroom. We don't do much work in the classroom. Mostly it's debates and discussions, just kind of vetting the investment ideas that students are facing and keeping an eye on the portfolio. The research work, the analysis work happens outside of class.
Mm-hmm.
Professor Coe, do you want to say a little bit more about what happens in the program?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to go back to what you said about the classes. I think all of the classes Professor Clark said, extremely important. The reason why, as you're taking 321, you want to pick up, that's where you're going to get introduced to the DCF. So you want to pick up the DCF and valuation in 321, because that's where that's introduced.
Oh, Professor Coe, what's a DCF?
A discounted cash flow model. So make sure that you'll learn that over the summer, but you should have some background on that coming into it, which is why we recommend students have it's a prerequisite to have 321. Also in investments, which is 340, you'll learn a lot about that's a general introduction to investments class, so that gives you a good background. And all of the students that I have in class have all said that for those that haven't taken it, 335 is an absolute must class. The reason why is it's financial statement analysis and that's going to be something that you're going to really need to be able to do when you get to TCM. So that's why those are important. I totally agree with what Professor Clark said, 435 for bonds. I would also say that 440, which is mergers and
acquisitions and company valuation.
That's really good class to take. I have a lot of students taking that now that say that's a real must class, particularly if you're studying for the CFA. And derivatives, which is 444. So those are the only things I wanted to add to that. The other question you asked me, Professor Clark, was about what actually happens.
Yeah, the kind of the workload and what happens in class and out of class.
Yeah, so when the students actually come to the boot camps in the summer, you get divided up into industry teams. And obviously, you can switch teams if you wanted to do a different industry. But I don't think any of the students really switched teams once they got pretty acquainted with the sector that they were going to be in and with their other colleagues in the team. And so one of the first things that you do is you work together to get a sense for what you think about that particular sector. What's your view of it? What is your view of the stocks or the companies that we currently own in the portfolio in that sector? And you actually have to make a presentation in one of the very first boot camps in terms of what that is, having an opinion on that sector and the stocks that you currently own. The process of going through the class really becomes one of managing a real portfolio, both on the bond side as far as the equity side, and also for President's Scholars. You have real clients, which are obviously the foundation, but the board that you have to report to. Students will get a good sense for managing their own sector and understanding the stocks that are in that sector. You'll have some help because the current class is currently trying to get at least a report on every single stock that we own. So you have background on what the stock that we currently own is, what the financial model is. So you'll have some place to actually start, but you need to get a good sense for understanding your industry and your sector, and then making recommendations to portfolio within that sector. As far as the process goes, you have to get buy-off from your team on an idea as you're starting to work on it. That's within your own individual sector. And then you have to go to the portfolio managers. And I don't know, Professor Clark, have you talked about the portfolio manager process?
I don't know how much in the weeds we want to get right now, really, but I think that they have a basic idea of how it's all put together.
Yeah, basic idea is that you'll give the portfolio managers, get buy-off from them, start drafting a research report. There's lots of things that you'll do to get to the idea, whether it be screening, fundamentals, talking to your colleagues, and then having to, the process of pitching that report to your colleagues, as well as doing a written report, which you'll learn about that over the summer as well in terms of doing that. But it's a real process. It's like really managing a real portfolio. The discussions in class are all centered around the portfolio, and the weekly discussions on events that affect it, and the monitoring of it, as well as new ideas that are coming into the portfolio. So it's very much run like you would at a real investment company, what you would have to do as an analyst.
Fair enough. What else would you guys want to know about TCM or the application process or anything at all?
You were giving some recommendations on classes.
Uh-huh.
I'm a graduate student, so I'm only allowed to take a certain amount of 400 level classes. Were there any graduate level classes you could recommend?
We don't have a ton that are related to the investment process, in truth. You've probably already noticed that if you've looked at the course offerings. Yeah. So beyond 442 and 443, you're probably going to be stuck. That's about all there is really for you. I don't know, Kelly, when you did the whole CFA analysis, did you end up with any grad courses in the list? I don't remember seeing any.
I don't believe I did. I focused it on the undergraduate classes simply because that's what we submitted to the institute.
Yeah.
Syllabi for the undergraduate classes, even though we could have submitted graduate classes. I only did it for the undergraduate classes.
Yeah. I don't recall seeing many that are useful. You probably, I mean, we've had grad students in the program in the past, and you can only take 2, I think, 400 level. Is that right? So yeah, 442 and 443 would count, but you really need more. So you could take more, you just wouldn't get credit towards your degree. Yeah. If you had time, you might want to take, I think, at least financial statement analysis, or maybe the bonds class, just to get that breadth that you need.
Okay. I have a quick question.
Sure.
So if we do research in the class, and then if we do find like few stocks, like few companies, are we allowed to invest our own funds or not?
Yes. We don't execute our own trades, so we don't have restrictions on the students as far as your personal trading. So you can buy and sell just like you would today, even when you're in the program.
Got it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing I was going to mention, because I did get some questions for the in-class sessions, is this is not a trading portfolio. So it's not like one of those portfolios where we're just going to be trading like left and right, like day trading it. It's a long-term focused portfolio. So I just wanted to say that because I had some questions for people who like trading and want to do like fast active trading. This is not it.
Yeah. It's completely bottom-up fundamental analysis. We don't use technical trading techniques. We don't do swing trading. We don't do derivatives. We don't do shorting. We don't do leverage. So
we don't do options, even though in the spring we do talk about options and allow students to do like an option portfolio, but options aren't allowed in the actual portfolios themselves.
Yep. All right, there's got to be something else. Okay, here, let me throw something at you, and you guys, maybe that'll spark some ideas. The question we had earlier about how does it prepare me for my career, I want to expand on that a little bit. Before people get into Titan Capital Management, they've been studying useful information, but it really has been textbook-based knowledge for the most part. Hopefully you've had a chance to get an internship, and so you get some real-life experience. But even in most internships, a lot of companies still have you just making coffee and doing grunt work for somebody else. It's not, you don't have a lot of responsibility in many internships. Some you do, but many you don't. So what happens in Titan Capital Management is suddenly you have a real job. I mean, you are assigned, as Professor Coe said, you're going to be assigned to an industry or market sector. You're going to be expected to pay attention to what's happening in the news, what's happening in the financial markets, what's happening in your portfolio. You're going to have to make decisions and then evaluate the decisions, whether they were right or wrong, and what should I do about them. It's the real deal. So what happens is you come in the summer as a new TCM analyst. You're probably terrified. You're not sure you made the right choice to try this, and why am I here? I don't know. I'm not that smart. I mean, you usually have a lot of doubts. You go through a huge learning process where we help you every step of the way to gain the skills you need to do this work. And then by the time you're done in spring, you are a different person. You are literally a different person. I've seen students go from kids to adults, in that 12 months. They've gone from just novices that they really weren't sure what their future was going to be, whether they were worth, getting that high profile job, to people who know what they can do, and they can have a conversation with a potential employer, and they actually are comfortable telling this person what they do all day and why they do it. And yeah, I noticed what was happening in the news, and this is what I thought about it. So it's transformational. That's what my emails say to people. It will change your life. I guarantee it. If you're interested in this business, or if you're interested in business generally, how does the world work? Why do the stock markets go up and down? What makes a business successful? You're going to learn about all of that in this 12 months. It is hugely valuable for everybody. Even if you don't get a job in financial analysis, you will learn about yourself, and you'll gain confidence, and you'll just be able to be a team leader, help others succeed, not only yourself. It is the best thing most of our students have ever done, I think I can say. I'm going to turn it over to Kelly for a second, Professor Coe, while I try and answer some of these questions on the chat. I'll just type so that we don't take up too much time.
I totally agree with what Professor Clark has said. Let's just be honest. In this day and age, it's really hard, to get a job, much less get a job having some type of decision-making responsibility, like actually being an analyst. So the thing is that you want to be able to get in to work your way into that type of position. And the best way you can get in is being able to kind of talk the talk, like actually understanding about financial markets and about investments, and having, the responsibility of managing portfolio. That's far more than most people would have getting out of undergraduate, even graduate school. So it's automatically a thing that is going to generate a lot of interest. And I think a lot of students that have gone out to interviews say that, one of the things that is a big talking point in the resumes is being in this program, being able to talk about what you actually do, being able to talk about the process of doing a research report and actually showing someone a research report that you worked on, or showing them a performance report of, you know, what our current portfolio is and how we're positioned and what our strategies are for managing the portfolio, and, you know, all the events that are occurring that are causing us to adjust that strategy. Really big right now for students in the program because they're going through this coronavirus. This is like a, you know, black swan type event that, you know, you could probably mark right there with the financial crisis, dot-com bubble, Black Monday. And people want to know, well, what are you doing in the portfolio at this point in time? And they're going to want to know what you did when you get out of school and, you know, what your decisions were. So it's definitely something that you can bring to the party. It will also help you as you progress towards, you know, doing the CFA, other things which are related to having a career in this industry. So I think it definitely gives you a leg up. I wish there was a program like this when I was in, you know, undergraduate or even graduate school, that they actually allowed me the opportunity to manage real money. It's not an opportunity that's offered to anyone. And so if you do the program and you get in the program, you should think about it that way. I've now been entrusted with this responsibility, and, you know, I have an obligation to do what's right for the foundation and for the college.
Well said. I think that's a good segue to why the process is the way it is. We do not want to keep you out. That is really not our purpose. But our purpose is to make sure that we've done our due diligence by entrusting this money to students who have a chance of doing a good job with it. It's really just to make sure that you can be successful. So like I say, we've never hit our limit. I said that in the chat. Most students figure out along the way whether or not they're going to be able to commit the time or whether it's a good fit for them. And we tend to get maybe 50 maximum applications every year, maybe less. And out of the 50, probably 20 of them along the way decide it's not for them, and they just exit the process. We don't reject them, they just exit the process, which leaves us with about 30 good candidates for the finalist interviews. And then from those 30, we typically bring in about 20. So it's not that exclusive. It's just that you and us are both trying to make that right fit. So what else? A few more minutes. Have we scared you yet, or do you think this is cool? Everybody in the chat say, yes, it's cool. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate that. It's really interesting. It's something you would not do in school otherwise. It's, like I say, it's definitely, thank you, guys. Oh, wow, we got triple S. Junior, you're my guy. Awesome. I appreciate that, everybody. Oh, Adrian, woohoo. So, it is super cool. And yeah, we want to help you be successful. We want you to be there. But what's in the way besides getting the prereqs out of the way? That's important. It has to be done as soon as you can manage it. The other things that get in the way is working. A lot of students, I sent in my chat, a lot of students do work and they still manage to make time for the program. They may give up sleep. Their girlfriends or boyfriends might get a little bit less of their time. But they do make it work. So time is an issue. You'd have to be able to spend the time. We did have one person at the open house who was a single mom wanting to know whether it would be suitable for that. Absolutely, you can definitely find time to make it work, because a lot of the work you can do at home as long as you can get in touch with your team via video chat, like we're doing, conference call or something else. You can even bring your child to school if you have a group meeting that just has to be done in person. So no reason at all that you couldn't do it as a single parent. What else? What else might be in the way? What are you afraid of? Come on, be brave. Let's see. Yeah, we're not going to talk about the current market today, but I think it's a buy. That would be me. Buy the dip. Rohan asked how many summer sessions. There are 3, and we gave you the dates. I'm going to type them. So yeah.
Puts.
No, sure, go for it. I think it was May 29, I think was what I said. May 29, July 17, was it? I have to check my calendar again. August 21 and 22, I think were the dates for the boot camp. So I'm going to get my calendar open and double check.
Junior, you're thinking about writing puts, right? Not buying puts.
He thinks he's going to keep going down.
He said he's going to write puts, right? No, I'm just kidding.
May 29, July, May 29, not 26. Sorry about that. So you can't see me. May 29. The boot camp dates are, I just am entering it in the chat so everybody can see it. Financial commitment, there is none. It's a normal class. So you just pay your tuition like anything else. Let's see what else.
A caregiver for elderly.
Your time, you know best whether you have the time to do it, but a lot of the work can be done at home as long as you can connect up with your team.
So one of the things I was going to mention that we've had as a change over the last year is that we now have FactSet, and students can actually use FactSet at home. We had Bloomberg before, which would mean you'd have to come to school and use it in a TCM room, but now FactSet gives you the option to actually be able to do a lot of work at home, just as long as you connect with your teammates and do group meetings as you'd normally do. You can do them over Zoom, you can meet together. Sometimes that is nice to do, I think, once we get back to the normal in-person meetings. So again, a lot of it is your flexibility and how you're willing to work to do what you need to do.
Yep. Any final questions?
I actually have one about the application process right now.
You're worried about it, you said, or interested in how it works?
I'm more about the instant how it works.
Okay. So the best thing to do, if you've gotten the email, you probably have already received the Word document that has all the instructions, but there's 3 phases. The first phase is that we have to gather some basic information about your academics. So there is on our website, which is here, let me type it here as well, business.fullerton.edu/TCM. Fullerton, hopefully I think I have a typo there, but you know what I mean. EDU, not ED. You can take a look at the process as we've written it out there, and on the applications page, there's a quick form you can fill in. So step 1, phase 1, tell me what classes you've taken, how many units you have, what's your GPA. Find a professor who's willing to write a recommendation for you and give them a link that I provide you so that they can send their recommendation directly to me. What else do we find out about you? Yeah, that's about it. So some basic information. Then we can say if you at least have the foundation to move forward. That's phase 1. If you have the basic foundation, then we'll give you a research report to do. So we give you a company that one of our current analysts has already worked on and so is familiar with. And then you have to do a quick review of that company and tell us whether you think it's a good buy or a good sell in the current market. So we give you some instructions on some places to start with that, but we want to see a couple of things from this phase 2. It's what do you decide is important? What do you put in that report that you think should influence someone who's going to approve your investment decision? How long should it be? We don't want to read a 20-page paper. So what information do you include, and how long does it take you to make that persuasive case for us? Can you make a persuasive case? Do you have good logic skills? Do you have good writing skills? Let's see, can you do some math? If you can throw some math at us, that's very helpful. It's not it's hard math, but a little bit of numbers are helpful. And so we just get a sense of how you think, how you write, how you analyze information. And then that goes to me for a quick review, or Professor Coe for a quick review. If it's good enough, then it will move on, and you'll have to defend your report to a current TCM analyst. You'll have to persuade him or her that your analysis is solid. So that's a big hurdle for a lot of people, and that's where we lose the biggest chunk of our candidates. They can't make it through that process because we don't. There's a question here: do we provide an example? No. I don't want to give you a roadmap. I want you to chart your own course so that I can see how you think. So no samples. Instructions, components. We tell you what components should be in there, but no, you have to figure it out on your own what's important and what's not important. So yeah, we lose a bunch of people. They just don't make it all the way through that process. Phase 2 is the hardest. And then the final is you would have been an in-person interview. Now it'll be a video interview and some other kind of problem-solving, critical thinking sorts of evaluations. And we usually do a team group assignment, which we'll have to figure out how to do in this virtual environment. So that's the 3 phases. And we'll tell you if you're in, all the way along the way, you're going to get really good feedback about where your strengths are and where you might be lacking. And by the time you get through the end to the interview process, you'll know within a few days whether you got in or got out.
Question was, what if you haven't taken 321 or 340? I think we said that earlier. You would have to make a commitment to take those classes. At least one of those would have to be done over the summer, and we probably would give you a waiver to take the second one during the fall semester. Is that right, Professor Clark?
Yeah. And wouldn't it affect the report? That is true, which is why we encourage people to get those courses done as soon as possible. We're not expecting you to know how to do a research report for a stock or bond recommendation. What we're really evaluating is your willingness to put in the time to do a decent job and your ability to do a decent job. Generally, the reports that you do to get in the program, you will never want to share with anybody ever. Once you get through the boot camps and you realize what you should have done and didn't, yeah, they're not going to be great, but we just want you to try, because at TCM, it's all about being willing to try even when you don't know that you're going to be successful.
Comes down to how bad do you really want to be in the program?
Yeah.
And I also think the thing that, again, just to highlight what Professor Clark was saying, some of the things that really tend to, they're really, really important, but they tend to be skills that students lack are writing skills. You have to write clearly, thoughtfully. Someone's going to have to be able to see your logic. How do you get from point A to point B? And what is persuasive about your recommendation on the stock? That's really, really important. What evidence do you use to support that recommendation? Those are all critical factors in any report and should be the things you should focus on for this assignment.
Yep. Herman had a question. I'm going to lower your hand. What's up?
Hi.
Herman.
Phase 2, the report. Mm-hmm. That's due April 10th, correct?
10th. It is. And many of you should be working on it already. Some of you, anyway, should be working on it. Yeah. There's 2 things you have to do. First, you have to give me a draft, or me and Professor Coe a draft. You give it to me and I share. And so that we can give you some initial feedback, whether you're on track or whether you're off base. If you're off base, we'll tell you what you need to change, where the issues are, and then you can go back and do a new draft. So it's not like one and over. But you need to get it to us in time for us to give you the feedback, and then you can do a second draft, and then you can get it approved to share with one of our current analysts. So the interview day is scheduled for the 17th. So we need at least that first draft by the 10th so that you have a week to get a second draft, to meet with the TCM analyst who's going to they're going to write an evaluation of your work. And it's going to be that analyst who decides whether you move to the next phase or not. So yeah, the 10th is when you have to get that first draft to me, and then we can get you information back.
Got it, thanks.
And the interviews are the afternoon of the 17th, if you need to block out time on your schedule because you're all confident you're going to make it that far. And they're running from 2 until 7. assuming we get as many candidates as we expect.
There's a question that says, what are some of the common mistakes people make in the report? Pretty easy. Bad writing.
Yeah.
Unclear thought.
Yeah.
Unsupported evidence.
Yeah.
Wrong evidence.
Yeah.
Looking at the wrong things. You know, this kind of, you know, the thing is you got to learn that you can't shoot from the hip. Just say, well, I'm recommending a buy, and I think it's a buy. Then, well, why do you think it's a buy? Well, I think it's a buy because of X, Y, and Z. Well, what's your evidence to support X, Y, and Z? So it takes that kind of logic to kind of get towards, it has to be clear. Like your thought has to be clear and concise. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Well, I thought I might give them an example of what you talked about. I think the most common thing I hear is we should buy Apple because Apple's a really good company. And the rest of their 5-page paper is basically that statement with a little bit more fluff. But that's not a persuasive argument for buying stock. You need to know what's the competitive environment, what kind of products is it offering right now, what makes it a good company. And then a little bit about, is the stock price high? Is the stock price low? And, you know, compared to peers, is it a better value than Microsoft? Or maybe we should look at something brand new like esports company or something entirely different. So just knowing it's being a familiar name and say everybody has an Apple something, so therefore it's a good company to buy. It's very superficial. We need to know just more about what makes it a good investment. If you were Warren Buffett and you were going to buy a business, what would you want to know about that business? You want to know about that business's ability to make money in the future. What kind of risks is it facing? And is it a good value? That's it. Do we provide you with information? No. Maybe that's not been clear yet. We're not giving you a lot of help on this thing. You have to find it. We're giving you instructions. We're telling you where you can find some information, but you're doing all the heavy lifting. What else? Now I scared people for sure. It's going to be fun.
Oh, by the way, the question was, do you provide us with the company's 10K or balance sheet? That information is publicly available, so you can find it. It is possible to find.
And we give you some sources. Yeah, there you go. Thank you, Adrian, for sharing. Yeah, that's the easiest way. Go to Edgar, sec.edgar.gov or gov.edgar, one of those. But there's lots of places you can find it. But it's about that. If you don't know how to do it, can you figure it out? Can you make a credible effort? That's all it takes, is that you're making a reasonable effort to do a decent job.
You know, in this day and age, there's actually things out there that actually tell you how to do ratio analysis or how to do, you know, if you go to YouTube, you can find something on everything. Yeah. But what I'm saying is, you know, being someone who's good at researching companies takes a little bit of a, you know, a curious mind and being able to want to look for things and, you know, how do I do ratio analysis? What do the ratios tell me? Why do I need them? You know, where would I go? I mean, for people who haven't taken 321, you know, how do I do a DCF? You could find that stuff if you really wanted to do it. I'm just saying, the question is how much do you want to be curious and try to go find it? And that's what we're looking for in students. We're looking for students who are interested in being able to be inquisitive and to ask questions and to know where to look to find the answers to those questions.
Yep. All right, we're down to our last few minutes. What else? Nope. So do you know where to find the application, where to start? business.fullerton.edu/TCM. If nowhere else, you can go there.
Can I ask one question?
Sure thing.
How often the TCM looking for the candidate? Every year?
Every spring.
Every
we bring
spring.
in people once a year, and then they are in the program for 12 months.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I got it. Thanks.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Anything else? All right. So I hope that those of you who were not sure you wanted to apply have decided this is definitely worth doing, because Professor Coe and I will tell you it's definitely worth doing. For the others who are in the process, finish up as soon as you can. Don't wait till April 10th. If we get 30 applications we have to process in a week, that's going to be crazy for us. So do us a favor, get them done as soon as you can. Sooner is just definitely better, and it makes a good impression as well. If you go through the process promptly, it makes it look like you're eager, and you get points for that. I suppose that's the last thing I'll say if there's no questions. How we evaluate candidates, there is actually a scoring system for every element of your application. If you have a higher GPA, you'll get 1 point extra relative to someone with a lower GPA. If you've had a finance internship, you'll get a point for that. If you've had taken all the prereqs already, you will get points for that. If your professor writes a glowing review for you, you might get extra points for that. So every single thing that you do will be scored, and then your cumulative scores are what's used to decide if people get in or get out. So every little part of it is important. You want to do your best on every single thing as you go. Let's see.
We're also looking for attitude. We're looking for good.
Looking for people with attitude? I don't know if I want your attitude, Professor Coe.
I was going to say good attitude.
Okay.
Good perspective towards, really wanting to be in the program for the right reasons.
Yep. Adrian's very helpful. I like him already.
Yeah. He's giving people places to look.
Yeah.
Don't want to give away all the secrets.
Helping each other is totally fine, by the way. It's one thing in finance, nobody has time to reinvent the wheel, to do everything from scratch all the time. If you can go out on YouTube or on the internet and find a model for how to value a company or how to write a research report, find it, use it. Don't try and do things completely from scratch. Use the tools that you have available to you, but there's no plagiarism. If you don't want to find someone else's report on the company I give you to analyze and then just copy paste. That would be like cheating, which we don't do here. But if you get an example, you can find one on the internet, or if you get a YouTube tutorial on how to do financial statement analysis, that's fine. Use it. If you can, just where you've used other people's work, just cite your sources and synthesize so that I can see how your brain goes. Anything else? All right. Well, if you have any other questions, you can reach Professor Coe or I via email very easily, and we're happy to talk with you one-on-one. So my email is mclark@fullerton.edu, and Professor Coe is...
I'm going to type it out here so you can see it.
Okay. So yeah, reach out, ask us questions, even if along the way, if you have questions at any point during the process, ask. We are a resource for you. Other TCM students that you may know, ask them questions. They will share with you. They're not going to tell you how to do stuff, but they'll give you insights into what it was like and what mistakes they made or what have you. So use your network, use your resources. Okay. All right, everybody. Is the session tomorrow going to be different than today? No, it's exactly the same. We just wanted to make it, back when we thought we'd be doing these live, we wanted to accommodate people's schedules. So, all right, everybody. Hope to see lots of applications coming through the email.
Looking forward to it.
All right. Bye-bye.